Welcome back to FameFlux, where the truth behind fame gets exposed. Gene Deal has come forward with a claim that could flip the entire Murder Inc. versus G-Unit saga upside down. According to him, Ja Rule allegedly put a $25,000 bounty on 50 Cent's head, and Irv Gotti knew about it. Gene labeled it for what it was, stating Ja Rule and Irv Gotti were involved in putting out contracts. That $25,000 figure, long seen in street circles as the going rate to have someone harmed, was reportedly circulating behind the scenes.
It wasn't Supreme. It was Irv Gotti and his people who put that on 50. That's why 50 hate them so much.
Gene claims this was discussed among individuals tied deeply to both the music industry and the streets. In other words, Ja Rule, Irv Gotti, and others within the Murder Inc. network allegedly orchestrated a plan targeting 50 Cent. Gene previously spoke on this during an interview with The Art of Dialogue. No arrests were ever made regarding a bounty on 50 Cent, but the timeline remains telling. After the feud with Ja Rule and Irv began, 50 was stabbed inside the Hit Factory by Murder Inc. affiliate Blackchild, who later admitted it publicly. Not long after, 50 Cent was shot 9 times outside his grandmother's house. Although federal authorities never officially named Ja Rule or Irv Gotti in the shooting of 50 Cent, Gene Deal's recent statements have reignited the discussion. He claims they were fully aware of what was happening. The deeper context involves Supreme, a longtime Murder Inc. associate, the same individual 50 Cent referenced in Ghetto Quran.
Chaz had worked the deal out for Irv Gotti and them to give 50 $250,000.
Which may have intensified the targeting against him. Gene now alleges that the attempted hit on 50 wasn't isolated street violence. It had music industry fingerprints all over it. From artists to label executives, Deal suggests they either knew or intentionally ignored what was being planned. Given Gene's background as a bodyguard for Diddy during the height of the Bad Boy, G-Unit, and Murder Inc. era, he had access to key players and first-hand knowledge of those inner workings. But why speak out now? According to Gene, this truth was buried for years, and the time has come to expose what really happened. He places Irv Gotti at the center of it all. While Supreme may have handled street-level operations, Gene says Irv was the one calling the shots. Gene also claims that before any violence occurred, Irv and Ja Rule initially tried to resolve things by offering 50 Cent $250,000 to squash the beef. They enlisted Chaz Williams, a respected mediator known in both street and business circles, to broker peace. But once 50 refused, Gene says the strategy changed. Here's what he revealed next. What began as an offer to settle quickly escalated into a targeted act when the $25,000 hit reportedly entered the picture. Gene Deal claims Irv Gotti and his circle funded the move directly. According to Gene, Irv wasn't just a label executive. He was also maneuvering on the streets, making decisions that blurred the lines between music and criminal enterprise. For years, Irv Gotti was publicly recognized as the architect of Murder Inc., the force behind Ja Rule's success and the label's signature sound. But within the industry, many insiders believed his role extended far beyond music.
Cause like my man told me, you can't stop what God got planned.
Irv maintained a close relationship with Supreme, a known Queens drug kingpin whose presence loomed over the era. Supreme wasn't just affiliated, he was central, and Irv's alliance with him brought Murder Inc. under federal investigation in the early 2000s. Authorities suspected the label was being used to launder drug money. Given that context, when Gene suggests Irv made the call to greenlight a hit on 50 Cent, it doesn't seem far-fetched. It's the kind of move Irv could have orchestrated without ever touching a phone. The tension between him and 50 Cent was never just about music. It was deeper. Their feud wasn't driven by lyrics. It escalated to real violence. After 50 Cent was stabbed at the Hit Factory, Irv and Ja Rule attempted to twist the story by circulating fake paperwork, accusing 50 of being an informant. It was seen by many as a desperate effort to damage his credibility in the streets. When attempts at mediation failed, The atmosphere grew darker, and whispers of a hit began to circulate. What makes this even more unsettling is how Irv has continued to appear in interviews over the years, consistently downplaying his role and claiming he was blackballed from the industry unfairly. He's repeatedly blamed 50 Cent for his downfall, and even once claimed that 50 only survived because he had, in Irv's words, the devil on his side. That statement alone, made during an interview with Vlad TV, raises questions. Why suggest something so extreme unless every effort to remove him failed? Now, Gene is officially on record stating Irv Gotti wasn't blackballed. He was simply exposed. And for those still skeptical, consider this. 50 Cent himself co-signed Gene's version, calling him one of the few in the industry who consistently speaks truth. While Irv continues to appear in interviews and documentaries, portraying himself as a victim of 50's rise, Gene claims Irv was secretly plotting violence behind the scenes. Most critically, this allegation ties both the motive and money for the hit directly to Irv, something federal investigators never publicly confirmed. But Gene didn't stop there. He insists Murder Inc. had powerful allies keeping everything quiet. When 50 Cent was shot outside his grandmother's home in 2000, there was no industry outcry. No statements from executives, no media outrage, no Pray for 50 campaigns, just a wall of silence. That silence, Gene says, was telling. It wasn't just the streets protecting Supreme, it was the music business too. Supreme's influence ran deep in the industry. He had connections with high-ranking execs and artists moving millions in revenue. And he wasn't the only one. Jimmy Henchman, another powerful figure tied to both the block and the boardroom, also had reach. Jimmy Henchman, who managed artists like The Game, had his own long-standing conflict with 50 Cent. Years later, he'd be convicted for ordering a hit on 50's associate, Lowell Lodi Mac Fletcher. That climate of intimidation ran deep. Between Supreme and Henchman, 50 Cent was encircled by powerful enemies with money, influence, and street forces. When he was shot, much of the industry remained silent. Some feared retaliation, while others were financially connected to those who wanted him silenced. For 50 Cent, the aftermath wasn't sympathy, it was isolation. Columbia Records dropped him almost immediately, shelving his debut album Power of the Dollar. Media coverage was no better. Instead of treating him as a victim, major outlets portrayed him as volatile, too risky for business. Why? Because he had named names. He called out the streets and corporate circles alike. Tracks like How to Rob were provocative, but Ghetto Quran pushed too far. It exposed street dealings tied to major money and revealed alliances between music executives and figures like Supreme and Jimmy Henchman. In that world, telling the truth came at a heavy cost. Labels didn't want 50 Cent anywhere near their boardrooms. They didn't want the heat, the scrutiny, or the chaos that followed him. Instead of backing an artist who survived a near-fatal shooting, they distanced themselves completely. That silence wasn't just fear, it was calculated protection. Now here's where it turns even more suspicious. Just weeks after the attempt on 50's life, Daryl Homo Baum, a known associate of Supreme and the alleged shooter, was taken out. Whether it was retaliation or part of a cover-up, the result was clear. The case went cold. No one wanted to talk. Not to law enforcement, not to the media. The streets stayed quiet. As Gene Deal pointed out, this silence wasn't a coincidence. It was part of a well-oiled system, one designed to shield Murder Inc., keep Supreme untouched, and punish 50 for surviving. The machine wasn't just on the block, it extended through music executives and corporate structures. So the real question is, how many industry insiders knew the truth and chose to say nothing? How many watched it happen and protected the narrative? Because when 50 Cent survived those 9 shots, he didn't just cheat death, he disrupted a much bigger system. He capitalized on that moment, turning trauma into the foundation of a global brand. That attempted hit didn't just scar 50 Cent physically, it redefined him. He wasn't simply another rapper from Queens anymore. He became bulletproof, both in myth and in marketing. Gene Deal now challenges the narrative, claiming what fans saw as legend was actually a plotted hit, known throughout the industry. According to him, many behind the scenes were aware, yet remained silent. 50 Cent didn't avoid the trauma. He embraced it. His entire image, from album covers to press photos, echoed resilience. The bullet wounds became visual proof of survival, and his calm but intense interviews drove the message home. I got hit 9 times. I'm still here. Now what? This wasn't just promotion. It was storytelling through music. Tracks like Many Men, Wish Death didn't embellish. They documented. That iconic hook wasn't metaphor. It was lived experience, delivered with pain, paranoia, and clarity. Listeners believed every word. But that raises a deeper question. If the truth was so widely understood, why wasn't anyone held accountable? The streets whispered the name Homo, an associate of Supreme. Yet Homo was taken out weeks later, and Supreme wouldn't face consequences until much later, and for unrelated charges. No one ever stood trial for the attempted murder of 50 Cent. And Gene Deal continues to stress that point. This wasn't a random act. It was an orchestrated hit approved by individuals with serious power, reach, and money behind them. According to Gene, the only reason 50 Cent survived that night was a mix of luck, timing, and something greater. He made that clear during a recent interview. Federal documents appear to support much of this. Wiretaps, testimonies, and official records confirm that associates of Murder Inc. and Supreme were allegedly tracking 50's movements. There were surveillance efforts, coordinated discussions, and premeditation. Even the murder of Jam Master Jay was briefly examined for ties to 50, since Jay had reportedly been warned not to collaborate with him. This reveals the depth of the blacklist 50 Cent was on. Now, turning to Ja Rule's role in the conflict, was he the mastermind, or just a recognizable figure fronting a deeper operation? It's confirmed that Ja Rule had beef with 50 and motive, but Gene suggests he may not have been behind the actual decisions. He may have been more symbolic, while the real orders were issued by more powerful figures. For years, Ja Rule positioned himself as the misunderstood figure caught in a feud that spiraled. He's claimed that 50 was both the aggressor and the victim, an image he criticized during his appearance on Math Hoffa's platform, but according to Gene, the narrative is far more complex and far more calculated. Gene Deal isn't buying Ja Rule's long-standing story that he had nothing to do with the alleged hit on 50 Cent. He's calling it what he believes it really is, a full cover-up. For years, Ja Rule has appeared in interviews downplaying the feud, framing it as a few bars, a chain dispute, and a case of inflated egos. According to him, he never crossed any criminal lines. He's insisted that the violence was exaggerated by the media or framed by 50 Cent to appear like the victim. Even after the stabbing incident, Ja Rule claimed 50 filed a restraining order, using what turned out to be bogus paperwork. That narrative painted 50 as weak, scared, and quick to involve authorities. But according to Gene Deal, none of that holds up. Gene says Ja Rule wasn't just the artist attached to Murder Inc. He was active, present during key conversations, and fully aware of the strategies being discussed. In Gene's words, Ja wasn't just a bystander. He knew what was happening, but lets Irv Gotti carry the blame online. Publicly, J. Rule has kept the feud playful. He posts jokes, memes, and takes shots at 50 Cent through interviews. But every time the deeper street allegations come up, he sidesteps. That avoidance, according to Gene, is not accidental. It's calculated. Because if Ja Rule truly had no part in it, why are his name and his label repeatedly linked to plots, retaliation, and street-level violence? Gene Deal's message is clear. He's not sugarcoating any of it. From Biggie's murder to the East Coast power shifts, Gene Deal was present when the tension escalated. Now that Diddy faces 6 trafficking charges, federal raids, and the looming threat of a RICO case, Gene is sending a clear message. He's not going down with him. But Gene isn't stopping with Diddy. He's also turning up the pressure on Irv Gotti, who's been making media appearances, including Drink Champs interviews, to reshape the Murder, Inc. narrative. Irv's trying to position himself as a misunderstood executive, not the street-level operator critics claim he was. Gene is challenging that version of events. He says Irv and Ja Rule have spent years reshaping history, downplaying their roles in the 50 Cent feud and distancing themselves from real street-level activity. But according to Gene, they weren't just caught in the crossfire, they were setting the plays, including, he says, a $25,000 contract on 50 Cent's life. With Ja Rule now back on tour, performing hits and interacting with fans like nothing ever happened, Gene is calling it what it is: unfinished business. He insists this isn't over, not by a long shot. Beyond the headlines, Gene has his own motivation. He's drawing a firm line between what he witnessed and what he was responsible for. This isn't just about exposing secrets, it's about protecting himself. With federal investigations gaining momentum, Gene knows what's coming next, and he's making it clear. He refuses to be collateral damage in someone else's cover-up. RICO charges, lawsuits, federal heat, it's all closing in. And if there's ever a moment to speak before the fire reaches your doorstep, it's right now. Gene Deal says this moment isn't just about him. He's tired of watching powerful figures rewrite history while the victims, both living and gone, get ignored or exploited. He claims this isn't about clout or revenge. It's about finally telling the story truthfully, for those who didn't survive, and for those still too afraid to speak. But is Gene revealing hard truths, or simply controlling the narrative before someone else controls it for him? That question lingers. Some call him brave for breaking the long-standing code of silence, providing raw insight into what's really fueled hip-hop's darkest moments. Others argue he's cleaning his own name, laying groundwork to stay clear of any future fallout. The truth? It might be a mix of both. Yes, Gene was present during critical moments. Yes, he stayed quiet for years. But now he's naming names, citing amounts, and revealing motives. And few are stepping up to deny his claims. So, if what he's saying is real, someone out there still has blood on their hands? If you found this breakdown compelling, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives just like this.